Look and feed the Lord. Have you ever heard of a reticular activating system? If you have a normal human brain, then you have one. It's about the size of a short pencil, located just above where the spinal cord is attached to the brain. It's actually a network of neurons located in the brainstem that project anteriorly to the hypothalamus to mediate behavior, as well as both posteriorly to the thalamus and directly to the cortex for activation of awake, desynchronized cortical EEG patterns. Let's greatly simplify that. Have you ever purchased an automobile or purchased something of a specific color? And before you made that purchase, you really didn't notice that vehicle all over the road. But when you made the purchase and it became your own, you noticed not only how many of that same vehicle, but how many of that same color was everywhere around. It was your reticular activating system that enabled that notice. I call that notice an aha moment. My goal today is to stir up an aha moment in your life. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 27 says, "He who gives to the poor will lack nothing, but he who closes his eyes to them receives many curses." Why is that? Before I answer that, let me see if you've noticed something that I noticed. Coming out of Walmart, there was a gentleman holding up a little sign by the stoplight that said, "Need help." At another busy intersection, completely different part of town, I saw a lady holding up a sign that said, "Anything is helpful, God bless." I've seen these signs in different places and they're written different ways, and some say will work for food and others say just a simple message that I'm hungry. There have been times I've thought that person ought to get a job. And when I thought that way, I was wrong. Not necessarily about them getting a job, but I was being judgmental. I haven't walked in that person's shoes, so I have no idea what's going on in their life. There have been times when I stopped and talked, and there have been times when I didn't. When I did or didn't, either way, I discovered that the Lord was simply requesting a little bit of what He's given me. There have been times where I've seen these people, and I've actually given them a spiritual tract, thinking in my mind I did something good, and hopefully that tract will lead that person to the Lord. I'd drive away with a little bit of satisfaction in my soul, and well, that person was still there hungry. Let's see what the book of James has to say about that. Chapter 2, verses 14 through 17 says, "What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, 'Go, I wish you well, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it's not accompanied by action, is dead." Let's jump back to Matthew and actually see what's going on in the world around us. In chapter 25, starting in verse 31, Jesus tells of his return. It says, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?' The king will reply, 'I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me.'" We can find in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17, it says, "He who is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward him for what he has done." Let's take a look at something that I would call big faith. There was a Christian farmer in western Kansas. He felt sure that God spoke to him to give his $40,000 hail insurance money to missions. So in faith he gave the money, trusting that God would protect his crop. Sure enough, the hail came and severely damaged all of his neighbors' crops, but not his. In contrast, there's a well-known story about a brilliant tightrope artist named Blondin who pushed a wheelbarrow across Niagara Falls. After he'd walked to the other side, the crowd roared with applause at his amazing feat. He asked a small boy in the crowd if he believed that Blondin could walk back. The boy said, "Yes, sir." He then asked if the boy thought he could do it with him in the wheelbarrow. The boy said he believed that he could, to which the famous tightrope walker said, "Good, just jump in and I'll take you." The boy would not get in. Here's two different types of faith. The farmer had faith that he had heard from God. He was so sure that he was prepared to step out, but the boy's faith was understandably lacking. He wasn't prepared to step out and get in. Many sincere folks, they have a measure of faith in Jesus, but they've never trusted in him. In that sense, their faith, because it doesn't have works, it's dead. Remember Proverbs 28:27, "He who gives to the poor will lack nothing, but he who closes his eyes to them receives many curses." Let's look back at Matthew chapter 25, starting in verse 41. Here we have where the king has separated the people, and now he's about to talk to the others. "Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me.' They also will answer, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you?' He will reply, 'I tell you the truth. Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me.' Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life." 1 John chapter 3, in verse 10, it says, "This is how we know who the children of God are and who the children of the devil are. Anyone who does not do what is right is not a child of God, neither is anyone who does not love his brother." Verse 11, it says, "This is the message you heard from the beginning. We should love one another." Looking forward to verse 18, "Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth." In the book of Matthew, chapter 17, verse 20, Jesus said, "Because you have so little faith, I tell you the truth. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." So that next opportunity that we have, when we pull up to the stoplight, when we see that sign, let's not be judgmental. Let's not turn a blind eye. Let's show love and faith in action. Say a prayer for that person. When you roll down your window, let them know that you prayed for them. Give them a few dollars to help them buy a meal and something to drink. It's not our job to be concerned about what they eat or drink, just as long as they have the ability to do so. I'll close just as I started. Look to feed the Lord and be blessed.